Long ago in Higher Hæl, a mother dragon watched as her 5 children started to hatch. As each baby emerged, she named them. In the end, she had Sun, Moon, Tucson, Somber, and Fro. Somber, the only female and the smallest of the quintet, along with Fro, were picked on by their older brothers. The siblings were divided and the bickering seemed to never end. Growing up, they were spiteful beings and always got themselves into trouble. Their mother was the poor soul who had to drag them out of it each and every time. One day, Sun terribly wounded Somber and Fro. Their mother had had enough. She healed her 2 wounded children, shrank all 5, stripped them of their wings, tails, and scales, and banished them to hell. If they wanted to return home, they were to stop bickering and work together to create something beautiful. They roamed the blank space of hell for millennia, still not wanting to work with each other. Sun stayed on the plane of light rocks and created fire. Moon on the plane of dark rocks and created water. Tucson stayed on the middle plane and created sound. Somber stayed on the lower plane and created wind. Fro stayed on the edge of all planes and created earth. Sun was fascinated by Fro's creation and offered to help him. He agreed in exchange for one of his teeth. Sun willingly gave his brother a fang and he planted it in his earth. And with Sun's gift of fire, Fro grew the readers, the first race of people. They were the wisest and could create fire with their hands. Sun and Fro watched their creation grow together. Fro saw Sun's people were lonely and decided to plant his own tooth next. He grew the gypsies and gave them the gift of controlling the earth. They scattered, not getting along with the readers. Instead, they created plants and animals to be their companions. Fro was angry they didn't follow his plan and cursed them so that every pair of mates could only have 1 child and that all other children would die and become infertile sand. Fro then reached out to his closest sibling, Somber, to help create companions to the readers. She complied and gave him a fang. He planted it, and with her gift of wind, he grew the aeronauts. They could control wind and they could fly. Sadly, they were beings who were full of hate and war. They got along well with the readers. Together, they accidentally discovered death when they started a fire in the gypsies' forests. The fire burned for 5 days until Moon stepped in and offered to help in exchange for his own people, but on a rock he brought from his plane. Fro complied and took one of Moon's teeth and planted it on his dark rock, growing the Darklings, pale creatures who could control water and were the most beautiful of all. Moon held up his end of the bargain and sent 2 of his people to put out the fire in the forest. Nothing ever grew again and the 2 beings fell in love with the place, and so Moon allowed them to stay. Fro was happy that they could stay in case any more fires broke out. It was very quiet on his new planet and Fro knew the people would need sound to communicate well. He traveled to the middle plane to plead with Tucson, the most distant of his siblings, to give his gift to the world. Tucson agreed, as long as his creation could have all the powers of the other people. Desperate, Fro agreed. Tucson gave him a fang and he planted it, giving it the gifts of all the siblings and giving sound to the world. The world sang as the royals grew from Tucson's tooth, beings full of love and reason. Readers, gypsies, aeronauts, darklings, and royals. Sun's heart leapt for joy at their creation, and he brought 5 light rocks from his plane to represent each of the groups of people and blessed them with light. Re, Mon, Rule, Argo, and Rome. He set each rock aflame and let them rotate next to Fro's planet. Moon kept his rock far away but let it eclipse its fire rock every 10 years so his people could remember what light was. They watched all of their creations thrive and named the planet after their mother, Ansol. They were so proud of the outcome that they never bickered again. Eventually, they were welcomed back home, though they didn't leave until they told the readers their story to pass on throughout generations and gave each of their correlating groups of people one of their scales. And the colors of the scales became representation of their houses and families. Yellow for readers, red for gypsies, purple for aeronauts, blue for darklings, and orange for royals. Every 9 years when the suns are eclipsed by Moon's rock, the sky is said to be dark enough to see the god scales gleam as they fly around in Higher Hæl.